Hello, and welcome to Healing Gals podcast, the podcast where we reconnect to who we were before the world got their hands on us. I'm your host, Molly Smith, and this week we're just going to be having the chats, gals. I get so much feedback that you love the guests and you love hearing about new things and learning new things from new people, and then I get messages saying we love the chatty episodes. So today's going to be a chatty episode. I was at Festival Mná yesterday, so let's first of all have a little chat about Festival Mná and how special that is. So Lorraine Hogan is the founder of Festival Mná. She arranges it with Siobhan and Ellie. She spoke about them a lot on the day at the Women's Circle and just how amazing they are and how fabulous and how amazing and hard they work to set up such a beautiful day for the women of Ireland. So can I just say to Lorraine, Siobhan and Ellie, thank you for your work, gals. You have created a day for the women in our country to be honoured, to be celebrated, to be minded, to be nourished, to be minded. Yeah, we said that already. Like, I can't tell you, we just left there yesterday feeling so connected to each other as women. I went with my daughter and my sister. We left there feeling so connected to each other. The chats that we had on the way home in the car were just like, and remember this, and this was so special, and I loved this moment, and I loved the women's circle, and I loved the Reiki, and I loved the foot massage, and I loved getting my belly button pierced, and I loved the tattoos, and like there's just so much to do there for women. So if you don't know about Festival Mná, you're welcome. Make sure you get there. It's a festival for the women of Ireland, and believe me, there is room for all of us. So if you're, a gal in Ireland that wants to experience a beautiful day, it happens once in June and once in January, and you just come. Just come, bring a few quid, bring no quid, bring your lunch, buy your lunch. It's not a big expensive day out. Although if you have a few quid in your pocket, come get yourself a little tattoo, get yourself a little piercing, get yourself a new ring. I got this beautiful ring from one of the vendors there. I shared about them on my Instagram. If you want to go and have a look at my stories there are just so many gorgeous people offering gorgeous services and alternative therapies, alternative remedies, and pampering and little places to buy things that smell nice and dream catchers and pick what you might think would be at a women's festival. It's there. So don't miss out because we just had the most gorgeous day. I was there as a person who bought a ticket, and then also I was there as a vendor. I brought my new business Evertold there. You'll see an ad for Evertold in a bit, so you'll hear all about that. But I just met the most amazing women coming up to my stand asking me questions about Evertold and what it is, and oh gals, it was just magic. It was just magic. And then when you start talking to people about preserving stories, they start telling you some of their stories, and I've heard some of the most gorgeous. I just feel so connected to the gals. I love women. I just love women. If you can't tell, I love you. I love you. You're amazing. So that was really fun. We had a great day. It was my daughter's first time. She's almost 18. She said it was one of the best days of her life. She said those words yesterday. She said that. She said it was one of the best days of my life. It was just magical. So yeah, get yourselves there. I'll definitely. We go to every single one now. Since we've been there, we can't not go there. We would never miss out on that again. An opportunity to be with all those women and for everything to be as amazing as it was. We wouldn't miss out on that again. So, you know, um. So that was really fun. Today is Father's Day. I'm recording on Sunday in my home. It's Father's Day, and yeah, I this is a tricky day for many of us. It used to be a very tricky day for me. I used to always kind of feel resentful that I didn't have a dad that took care of me. I used to feel upset about the fact that my dad never did anything for me, or try to reach out to me or take care of me or protect me, or like I used to have a lot of anger and resentment around Father's Day. As I got older, then I used to celebrate my mum because she was an independent parent, and she parented us, the mother and father role, our whole lives, and I'm very grateful to her for that. That's a really difficult job. That's a really hard way to live, as I know, because that cycle continued with me. I was then a teenage mother, I was then an independent parent, and that's the nature of generational trauma, you know, when we don't address the things that are going on, or maybe the patterns that have caused a cycle to continue, the cycle will just continue, you know. So I talk a lot on the podcast about how I've addressed that with Brooke, and how I am ensuring that Brooke is not going to be another teenage parent, independent parent. We're choosing real men here. We're choosing real partners. Whatever we do, we're not having losers who don't take care of their kids in our lives in this family anymore. Okay? Okay. So yeah, it's Father's Day, and I feel really blessed that Kev is in our life. I think he is a really good. When I met Kev, Brooke was 13, 12. What age is she now? 17. So she would have been 12. So yeah, when I met Kev, Brooke was 12, and at that stage, it's a tricky stage, because I think if you met somebody amazing when the kids are like so young that they don't really remember life without that person, without the man or the new partner, I think it's a maybe the stepdad transition is easier or something. I don't know. But when I met Kev when Brooke was 12, Brooke was a very Brooke knows our vibe, you know, like we're very clear. At that stage I had started a good bit of healing, and I am the matriarch of our family. I set out what's going to happen, what's right, what's not, who disciplines who. It's me. It's all me. So I thought that Kev would come into our lives, and that he would be a cool influence in the house, but certainly not a father figure or a stepdad or anything. I thought it was kind of too late for that. And to a certain extent, it is. If we're honest, it is. He's never going to discipline Brooke. He's never going to, you know, do any of that. That's my role. I'm her mum. I'm her safe place. Kev is here, and absolutely we have conversations that need to happen. No doubt about that. No doubt about it. But I am the one, if something difficult needs to be said or be dealt with, it's me, because I am her parent, and I have established that bond with her since she was small. So Kev's role when he joined our family, when we were blending our family, was very much like he was here with us and we love having him around, but he's not the dad. He's not the parent. He's not doesn't do any of the difficult stuff. He's here for the fun stuff, the good times, and he's there to support me when things are difficult in parenting, which they are from time to time. They can be quite difficult. He's there as a support to me. He's also there as like kind of practical support, and making sure that when my time and my energy is taken up being a parent in difficult times, that he carries on and keeps the house going and keeps things ticking over, you know, like that's kind of the roles that we slid into. And Brooke is now nearly 18, and we're 5 years together, 2 years married, and I think it's really precious how their relationship has evolved over time into this gorgeous kind of stepdad daughter kind of element, you know. It's really precious. I'm really proud of it, and I think that we navigated that really well. I think like when you're a woman who has been treated badly and who has had experience of abuse and, you know, violence and being lied to and gaslit, and just like all of the terrible ways you could damage someone's self-esteem, when you have experienced that, you feel I'll speak for myself. I felt like I was a failure as a mom. I felt I was a failure as a woman. I felt that I didn't set boundaries well enough. I didn't, you know, do the things that women who are empowered do. You know, I wasn't doing it right. And I suppose like I think that we put that expectation on women, that like, oh, why didn't you just set boundaries? Why did you tolerate it? I feel like the question is like, why is he such a loser? Why is he so entitled that he feels that he can behave that way, you know? Certainly, we have things to learn. Self responsibility is really important, but I think more responsibility, if not all, most of it, 90% of it goes on the abuser, you know? Um, but when you go through things like that, the thoughts of bringing another person, another man into your child's life is really daunting and really like, I cannot fuck this up again. I cannot make this huge mistake again. I cannot have a person in our lives that's going to treat me badly again and have Brooke witness her mum be upset and just constantly in survival mode, you know, constantly trying to survive. I need to pick someone good. And I suppose I did a lot of work, and you can go back through any of the rest of the seasons to listen about that work. And yeah, now we just have Kev in our life. And Kev, I do believe that I have brought Kev into my life because I had learned finally to love myself. And I then set an example for how I want and deserve to be loved. And now we just have this lovely life together that's very precious, and we speak to each other, the three of us, um very, me, Kev and Brooke, we have a beautiful family home where we speak to each other so kindly. It's full of consideration on all of our parts, on making sure that we're all okay and we're all comfortable and we're all feeling that we're being looked after and we're all not resenting each other, you know. Because I say all the time, I learned this from Esther Perel, um, that resentment is poison for relationships. You know, once resentments start to creep in, you're holding unspoken poisonous thoughts about the person that you're living with, whether that's your child or your partner or, you know, your parents, if you're still living with your parents. When you're holding resentments, that is the free flow of communication, the free flow of interaction is not there. So because you're thinking, oh, that's great, yeah, 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 but what about the last time that you fucking, you know, like, that's resentments come in that way, and then you don't have that light-hearted, beautiful connection that you want to have because the resentments are there, but you don't know how to verbalize them. So in blending our family, I feel like one of the most important things to do if you are blending a family or you have blended a family and maybe it's not going as well as you would like it to go, I would say radical honesty is the key. If radical honesty gets rid of anyone from the equation, they weren't meant to be in the equation. That's the truth, angels. I know that's probably hard to take because I wouldn't want to hear it if I was in a relationship and I was trying so hard to make it work and he just wasn't getting on with my kid, or he wasn't, you know, they weren't seeing eye to eye, and you know, whatever. If radical honesty, what's that saying actually? There is a saying, if telling the truth, can I can't think of the saying, but basically if radical honesty gets rid of someone out of the equation, they weren't supposed to be in the equation in the first place. I don't know what the actual saying is, but there's a Healing Gals podcast saying now. um So when Kev came into our lives, I made sure that we had these relationship reviews. Now, me and Brooke were already doing this. I had learned this from Sinead Hegg about relationship reviews. She had a boyfriend at the time, and she was talking about how they have these relationship reviews, and you can do this with like any relationship, where basically like every so often, fill in the blank, whatever feels right for you, once a week, once a month, once a fortnight, whatever. Certainly no less than that. You want to be checking in a little bit, you know, that you sit down together and say what's going well in the relationship and what needs more attention or what could do with some work. And I was doing them with Brooke when I learned that from Sinead Hegg, so that she could give me feedback about things that she wasn't happy about with my parenting, my mothering, my being in the world in relation to her, and vice versa. And so we had this like really lovely connection with each other. So then when Kev came in, we started to include, when he was like moving in and stuff, we started to include Kev in those relationship reviews. Now me and Brooke would still obviously have our special times where we would do our one-to-one little, let's have a chat about our relationship, you know. um but when Kev came in, we would sit down, the three of us, and have these little meetings. We I think we started off just saying like we need to talk. I knew it was a relationship review, but you can put whatever words on it that you like. If that kind of language isn't the norm in your household, you amend any lesson you have ever heard to the language that's used in your household so that it feels more natural, you know? So it evolved into family meetings. So whenever anything was annoying Brooke about Kev leaving his socks somewhere or not doing a particular thing that, you know, is the norm in mine and Brooke's running of our household, or if he said something that Brooke didn't like, or, you know, like it's difficult blending families. Before we continue, let me tell you about our sponsor. This season of Healing Gals podcast is sponsored by Daramats, a brand created by a woman who, like so many of us, reached a point where she could no longer live in survival mode. She came from a high pressure frontline career, constantly switched on, constantly giving, and she didn't just walk away. She rebuilt her life around regulation, healing, and coming back to herself. And Dara mats is an extension of that. Dara mats aren't just yoga mats. They are a soft place to soften. They are an anchor point to bring you back to yourself during your day. They're designed as a one-time purchase, made from durable materials that are machine washable, built to last a lifetime. Each mat features stunning artwork and imagery of Irish landscapes, of nature, from beautiful landmarks across Ireland to breathtaking coastal scenes. So if you're looking for a yoga mat that is soft, high quality and will last you a lifetime, go to daramats.com. And Healing Gals listeners get a discount. If you type in Healing12 when you go to the checkout, you'll get 12% off your purchase. So what are you waiting for? It's difficult blending people from the norms that they have come from and blending two norms. That's insane. That's a lifetime of conditioning and living that you're trying to amend. Like, it's hard. It's not easy, but it's worth it, you know? It's not insanely hard now, don't get me wrong. Like, as long as you have people with an open mind and an open heart and knowing that the intention is pure, but it's just, you know, we need to prioritise the gals and we need to prioritise safety. We need to prioritise the comfort of the gals, you know, like that's very much the priority in our household. Once we got to that stage, we were having these little family meetings. Now they're a joke. Now they're hilarious. Someone brings something to the table. They didn't like this, and it's like, oh, I did it again. Oh, Jesus. Or, you know, it's like, again, really? Did you not? Were you, you know, not around? Were you missing that day of school? You know, like there's the slagging and there's all the good natured part of it, and they're really important when we were blending families. So to celebrate Father's Day, I'll just say to all the women that are doing the job of the dad, thank you for your work. You're contributing to society in a major way. And I know that society is telling you that that's not really important work, or it's not really worthwhile, or it's not really something to be talking about because it's just having kids, you know. If you are having kids, raising kids, and doing the job of both parents, congratulations and thank you for your work, because that's not easy and that needs to be acknowledged. And to all the lovely dads that have stuck around and done their job more than the bare minimum, fair play to you. Keep it going, as you should. Well done. And then to the lovely beau pairs. We call Kev the beau pair. It's like the French for stepdad. One of the days Brooke was saying that she was doing some school thing, and whenever she used to come home, she'd say, Mum, I was doing the school thing and I had to talk about my mum as Gaeilge, or I had to say this thing in Irish or in French or whatever. She would never, she hadn't said it about Kev or whatever. And then one day she came home and said, oh, I was in school today and blah, blah, blah. And they were asking something. And then I was telling them, so I had to be like, my beau pair, Kev, blah, 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 blah. And Kev was like, he was buzzing. He takes the job of beau pair very seriously, and he takes it as very much so an honour and a privilege to be Brooke's beau pair, you know. So to all the beau pairs out there that have blended in with a family where there was a man that should have been there taking care of his responsibilities missing, thank you for what you do. Thanks so much. It makes the world of difference to women who are living in survival mode and having to do everything on their own. To have somebody who will do the driving or do the collecting or do the shopping and go and do fun things and whatever, you know, like we greatly appreciate it. And Kev, we love you, Angel. You're our precious, a little cutie. I'll get emotional now if we keep talking about Kev, so let's move on. Money spider. Okay, So let's talk about what's online. So often I see videos online that really resonate with me, and I think I want to talk about that. That's a great message for the gals. So I'm going to do a what's online section of the episode where we go through a few reels and things that I'm coming across online, and we discuss whether they apply to us. We discuss how amazing they are or not, and we go from there. So let's get into it.
Ladies, please normalize telling men I'm no longer interested because your behavior isn't compatible with the self-respect that I practice.
I'm no longer interested because your behaviour isn't compatible with the self-respect that I practice. I'm no longer interested because your behaviour isn't compatible with the self-respect that I practice. I have nothing to add. I have nothing to. What an incredible. Like, sometimes when we're in the dating phase with someone and they do something and you're like, yeah, but it's not that, like, I've literally experienced worse. I've literally experienced so much worse. Like, it's not the worst. Like, I can definitely, like, if you're watching Love Island right now, and if you see, I'm not going to talk for long about Love Island, just a quick point. If you see Ellie, when she was getting to know that guy, Tommy, he was showing her again and again that he does not value her, he doesn't respect her, he doesn't value her self respect. And she was just like she was having, for those of you that don't watch it, there's this gal Ellie, she's gorgeous, of course, she's the beauty standard. And then she was seeing this guy Tommy, and he had disrespected her a couple of times. And then when he was speaking to her one time, he said, like, what do you think it's going to be like if I meet your mom and dad? And she said, oh, my mom's going to have some questions for you about your lying, the lies that you're telling. And he said, oh, no, 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 I'm not going to walk into a line of fire like that. You go ahead of me. He literally is telling her, he's showing himself. He said, you go ahead of me and maybe say that it was your fault. Just say, like, oh, maybe it was my fault. And she goes, why would I do that? She's Scottish, so the was accurate. And he said, like, I'm not going into the lion's den like that. And she just kind of laughed it off and continued to get to know him. And then he disrespected her in a worse way. And then she blew up and, you need to have a word with yourself, blah, blah, blah. She didn't believe him the first time. Now, if she had of seen his behaviour and said, your behaviour is not compatible with the self-respect that I, what is it? Your behaviour is not compatible with the self-respect that I practice, she would have saved herself the heartache. And I think we would all save ourselves a bit of heartache if we just go there. And gal, literally, I'm talking to you. If this is you, you will save yourself time. When you rule out the ones quickly, you don't waste another 6 months, you don't waste another year. The person that's for you comes quicker. I did it. I practiced this and it worked. And now I have a fabulous partner that is we know what Kev is, king behavior, but your behavior is not compatible with the self-respect that I practice. Amen, sister. Okay, let's see what else I saved. Okay, this one is a good one.
Every now and then, a man or a boy will stitch my content, and a lot of them see what I say through this lens of, like, men versus women. They think that me describing the ways that men mistreat women is me saying that men are bad. And if you've been following me for a long time, I really don't give a frick, okay? My content is actually about how women can develop a sense of self so that regardless of what men do, you don't care, okay? You are unbothered. You might overinvest here and there. You might make a miscalculation, but your ability to bounce back or your ability to command respect will improve. You need to change the stakes of your relationships with yourself, with your friends, with your family, with your job, with men, so that you can live your best life and be hot and having fun. The problem is that a lot of women are conditioned to place their self-worth in the hands of men, okay? Self-worth is the key word here, okay? Self-worth is your responsibility. Regardless of how indoctrinated you are or aren't with the idea that your self-worth comes from men, it doesn't, by the very nature of self-worth being something that you have to deal with yourself.
The title of that video is Self-Worth Miscalculation, and I just think that's amazing. I just thought, oh yeah, How are we putting our self-worth, when that is a self job, in the hands of men? And if men don't like us, or if men think that we're too much or too loud or, too anything, that we then think that we're worth less. Why are we putting our worth in the hands of anyone? I thought that was a really good thing to reflect on. A little food for thought, gals, for a Wednesday afternoon. Okay, let's keep going. Okay, this one is around contraception and it's from a man. So let's hear what he has to say.
Fellas, hear me out. Go ahead and get that vasectomy. It's one of the dopest things you could do for your marriage if you and your spouse know that you are completely done having children. And I'm going to give you a couple reasons why. Reason number one, it's a carefree free-for-all, and who don't like a free-for-all? Number two, it's way less invasive on the man than the woman. And if that woman has given you her womb 9 to 10 months at a time, she done gave you 1, 2, 3 babies. Some of y'all, she done gave you twins, 2 at the same time. And she has gone through that natural birth, epidural, cesarean. She done been through a lot already. Why have your wife go through another invasive surgery where she has to be put to sleep? It's risky. For what? Vasectomy, real easy. You go in for about a 15-minute consultation. You come back the next week. You're in and out. They tape your situation to your belly button. Zoop, zoop, zoop. Hit it with the little laser. You're in and out in 20 minutes. You lay low for about a week and you're good. And you're good. Trust me. And number three, why have your wife on all these medications and IUDs and things that she just don't want to be on? Now, I know some ladies like to stay on birth control because it can regulate their cycle. They may have a seasonic joint where, they get their joint just 4 times a year instead of every month. And if that's what she want to do, then cool. But for most women, it got them gaining weight. It's messing with their hormones. It got them feeling sick. And most of them don't want to be on it. So why have them be on it?
King behavior. King behavior. Why is it that we are fertile one time in the month for a period of a few days, but men are fertile 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365, but we're expected to be the ones that take contraception and mess with our hormones when we already are going through enough? More vasectomies. More vasectomy movement, please. Thank you. Okay. Okay, this is also a really interesting take that I enjoyed listening to, so here we go. It's from a man called Big Brother Talks and Big Brother Talks _ on TikTok, and he's talking about being a man, not a boy. It's enjoyable. Listen.
In this video, I'm going to explain to you why cleaning up after yourself is the hallmark and the foundation of transitioning from a boy to a man. In a lot of Western cultures, there isn't this ceremonial moment of transition from boyhood to manhood. I'm going to argue that it actually happens when you start cleaning up after yourself. What happens for a boy is cared for. A boy has not a lot of responsibility or accountability and does not think about the consequence of action that much. For example, a boy makes a mess and walks away. Doesn't think who's coming to clean it up, who's going to do it, which is often the parent. A boy is cared for. A boy is not accountable, and a boy just freely does whatever without forethought of consequence. A man focuses on accountability, responsibility, and taking action when something needs to be done. And I would argue that is shown when you start to clean up after yourself. When something needs to be done, for example, needs to be cleaned, the bins need to be taken out, something like this, you made a spill on the bench. A man realizes that I need to go into action to get said thing done. I'm not waiting for someone to come and do it. And that's why people often refer to grown men that get catered for and cared for and don't do fuck all as man children, because they are still acting as a boy. They don't clean up after themselves. They don't take care of themselves. They rely on the support from a figure to do that for them. And that's often maybe still a parent, a girlfriend, partner that will just come and clean up for them. You haven't transitioned into a man. A man takes responsibility and accountability. If I make a mess, I clean that mess up because I do not need someone else to come and clean it up for me.
He goes on more, and that kind of nothing new actually comes towards the end of the video, so that's enough to listen to from him. But I really like that thought process, and I think as Irish mammies, we mollycoddle the boys, and then we have to rely on other women, aka girlfriends, wives, etc., to teach the boys how to, clean up after themselves. And that has to come after a series of arguments and heartache and more labour that women just don't need to do. We don't need to do it. We have enough to do. So I think that's really interesting. And I think that's a really interesting way to look at things. It's an interesting lens to view raising boys through. Boys don't clean up after themselves. Boys don't take responsibility for their actions. When you know that your son has transitioned from boyhood to manhood is when he can see that he has done something, and his accountability, responsibility and action kicks in, and he takes care of it. The mess, the hurt feelings, the whatever. I thought that was a very interesting take. I really enjoyed that. So fair play to that guy with his interesting take. More of that from the men on the internet, please. Less bro podcasts, am I right? Okie dokie. This was enjoyable.
Oh, I just saw somebody say grace is for mistakes, not for patterns. And that felt entirely true to me, because I have been surrounded by a lot of people who are Christian, who are really big on grace, but somehow not great on holding themselves accountable.
So grace is for mistakes, not for patterns. That was a big one. That was a clicking in the brain moment. Grace is for mistakes. So like anyone can make a mistake and no bother. First time, maybe even second time, like okay. But like patterns of behavior is something different. When I saw that video, I made my own video about it and put it on the internet. And I just thought, this is a really great way to explain why people end up no contact with their families. Like if your family member that you love and that always respects you and always takes care and always, considers you and prioritizes you in the role that they have. So let's say I don't have contact with my mom. If she was to make one mistake or whatever, I would be like, oh my God, like I understand we all make mistakes. When there's a pattern of harmful behavior though, the grace is gone. Do you know? Pardon the pun, because my mom's name is Grace. But when there is a series of behaviours that lead to negative outcomes for me and my daughter and my family, and you've tried to, rectify the situation and share how you feel and share how things need to be improved and share like, please, like this is hurting me, and it's not hard. Like I'm not asking too much for you to consider me as your daughter. Like please don't do that. Like when that is a repeated thing and it's an ongoing behaviour, that's a pattern. And so we can't just keep forgiving that. We can't just keep saying that that's okay. So I just thought that that was a really good one for settling our minds when we're like, do I just like pull away? Do I take a step back? If it's a pattern, huge step back. Mind yourself. You deserve to be minded. And you're the only one that's going to do it. Okay, this one is annoying, but we're going to have a good conversation about it. So unfortunately, gals, you'll have to listen to this, but we're going to learn something from it, so don't worry. I would not put you through this if you weren't going to learn something.
Let me tell you something about, look, you see in this life, yeah, you have women like you, and then you have the women on the streets. And one thing about the women on the streets is they're fun. They are mad fun. I'm not going to lie. They're fun. And they are, not to say that wifeys are not fun, but wifeys are a different type of fun. Wifeys bring us to the higher self. Like, wifeys call us higher as men. You expect us to be more disciplined, put together. You want us to put our life together and to perform at a higher level. Yeah. Those streets, are just like, oh, you don't even have to really to have your life together. You just have to just get out there, have a couple bottles of alcohol, have a car outside ready, have an Airbnb there. You know what I mean? A bit of weed. The streets are fun. It's like that's what I think a lot of men sometimes battle with. Like, where do I want to be? Streets or the house? The house. And you know who the housewoman is. You know who the wifey is. You know who the woman is that you could have kids with. Yeah. But then, like there's a noisy environment on the street.
That was on the Get the Gist podcast. He's not the host of that. He is a guest on that. But I just. Okay. That's a boy. That is a boy. That's somebody who hasn't established who they are as a man or what their values are and how they feel about women. That is someone who is using women to get an outcome. So the women on the streets and the wifeys, we're the women. We're all the same. The ones on the streets that you're saying, just shut the fuck up. Shut up. Shut up. You fucking idiot. Jesus. The wifeys are the ones that, you know, make you be a man. The women on the streets are the ones that you have fun with. No, they're all women, pal. They're all women. And the ones on the streets think that you're a nice guy. So they're looking at you like, oh, I might be his wifey, I might whatever. Women on the streets aren't like, yeah, let me just stay on the streets. Let me be running around here massaging men's egos. No. The women on the streets are the gals out having fun. And they're thinking, I'm meeting a nice man. This is fun. I'm out on a night out. I'm having fun. I'm meeting a nice man. And I might have fun with this man. And hopefully it leads to something cool. Or hopefully it just leads to like a safe, fun, good time. But the way that you're talking about women, as if they're either this to serve you or they're this to serve you. They're here to serve you in one way or they're here to serve you in another way. My guy, you need help. You need therapy, extensive amounts of therapy for how you speak about women. And this is why I will never have a man like that on my podcast. Never, 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 never. I don't even want to ever interact with a man like that. Never. The wifeys are this and that. No. We're the women. We are the women. And see the way he says at the start of the video, you have women like you and then you have the women on the streets. Hard disagree. You've lost me. You've lost the room. If you're talking about any woman that way, that shows me that you don't respect women. That shows me that you only use women for what you can get out of them. If you have women in these categories, all women are valuable. All women are miraculous, gorgeous, magical beings. And you saying, oh, there's women like you. So straight away, he's like complimenting the one on the chair because she doesn't want to be called one on like a woman in the streets. She wants to be complimented and held in the high regard, like the wifeys. But he's telling her in the same breath that like women on the streets, the wifeys just aren't as fun as the women on the streets. Give me a break. Give me a break. Loser behaviour. This one was just an interesting little slide. My mum is making my brother read 100 books about women's rights in order to get a car. And it's just like a teenage boy standing in front of a car. He like, okay, I see it. I think that's a great idea. Like make boys learn about women's rights in order to get things that they want, because ultimately when they go out into the world, it's going to be the women that support them, that mind them, that all of those things. So making your son read 100 books on women's rights in order to get a car. Okay. I have a video here that a woman who has experience in child marriage was talking about Venezuela fury, and I really like her take on it, so let's have a listen.
Let's have a quick chat about the celebrity wedding everyone's talking about. Now, I will not be saying congratulations. I won't be talking about the dress. I don't care about all that. I will, however, be asking a very simple question about why a law that exists to protect children like her is not being enforced. Because if this was any other family, you already know what the headlines would be and what would have happened. I was on LBC earlier on talking about Venezuela Fury's wedding. And I want to talk about why this is not the heartwarming celebrity story that the media is making it out to be. Because I don't think people actually understand what has happened legally. So let me break it down. The law, which I led a campaign for, the Marriage and Civil Partnership Minimum Age Act, does not fully stop at the English border. It specifically covers UK nationals who've been habitually resident in England and Wales. Now that means it doesn't matter if the wedding happened in the Isle of Man, which is what everybody seems to be defending. Venezuela has lived in England her whole life. Her parents facilitated and consented to that marriage. That is a criminal offence which carries up to 7 years in prison. Now that is not my opinion, that is the law. And I say this as somebody who not just campaigned for this law, but also as somebody who survived a child marriage right here in England and Wales at the age of 16. In my work, I've supported many children and have made safeguarding referrals where children have been at risk.
So she goes on to say her experience about helping children who are at risk of child marriage. And I just think it's an interesting topic to talk about, because a lot of the discussion around Venezuela Fury's marriage has been like, look at her dress. Look, she was wearing Crocs down the aisle. She walked down the aisle to Biggie's song Juicy. And it's been all of those things. And, you know, we all enjoyed the Furies reality TV show on Netflix. However, she's a 16-year-old who just got married. And yes, that is the norm in Traveller tradition, but she's a child, you know. There's a lot of women who have come out in their adulthood and said, why was I allowed to be married at 16 years of age? Why did my parents consent for me to be married at 16 years old? It's an interesting point to discuss, you know. Certainly my daughter, I would not be allowing my daughter to get married at 16. Think about a 16-year-old. I think because we see Venezuela Fury on the telly and she has this like really mature role in the Tyson Fury or the Furies on Netflix, we kind of see her as, you know, but she is a kid. She's a little kid, you know. My daughter's almost 18 and she is still a little kid. She's not there yet either. So yeah. I don't want gals to be getting married at 16 and having to deal with the things that come with what they think that is, which, you know, interesting point to raise. One of the main things that I hear from people is that I wish I preserved their stories. I can't tell their stories the way they did. I can't sing their songs the way they did. Well, that's where Evertold comes in. Evertold is a legacy storytelling platform, essentially a personal podcast, if you will. I come to you with compact recording equipment and I sit with the person that you want me to interview in the place where they are most comfortable, and I ask all the questions that you want asked. I can ask them to sing their favourite song, I can ask them to tell their favourite stories, and you will then have that video recording saved in a beautiful treasure box on a memory key, just like this one, that can be plugged into any television, laptop for the rest of time. You will never regret doing an Evertold, but you may regret not doing it. So get in touch if you would like your very own Evertold for you or someone you love. And make sure their stories are not lost to time. Healing Gals Podcast get a discount, so make sure you quote Healing Gals Podcast when you contact me. I'll look forward to speaking to you. Okay, let's talk about the dreaded male loneliness epidemic that doesn't exist. Okay? Let's go. Jordan Stevens. If you know Jordan Stevens, he is the partner of, well, he's the man that is one half of Rizzle Kicks. You know, Down with the Trumpets and all that. Great band. And he is a really clever, intelligent man who is on the right side of history and on the right side of humanity. So I wanted to share with you his thoughts around the male loneliness epidemic because I strongly agree with what he talks about. So let's listen to what he says.
The fear of rejection and abandonment from the greater society or women or whatever is so intense that we feel alone. I think it's Carl Jung who describes loneliness as like not a physical loneliness. But look here, Carl Jung said, loneliness does not come from having no people around you, but from being unable to communicate the things that seem important to you. Loneliness is rarely about empty rooms. It's about carrying words you cannot say and truths you do not feel safe to share. Healing is learning to speak what matters most, so you're no longer alone with it. This is the work of letting yourself be seen and known for who you really are. My theory...
Beautiful, man.
My theory is that the real burning in the transition is, I think there's a male consciousness that fears the immediate response to like how fucked our psyche has really become from capitalist patriarchy. Like really, like
I think so too.
Do you get what I'm saying?
Yes.
How clever, how reflective. Men are not lonely because women are doing anything wrong. Men are lonely because they are still not being taught how to connect with people, how to be vulnerable, how to connect to their own emotions, and therefore be able to connect with others through emotions, connect to others through sharing their emotions. Yet women are being blamed for it. A male loneliness epidemic because of women is a fairy tale. And the more that we allow young boys access to the internet in the way that they have it and the things that they are gravitating to on the internet, I think that is going to be the proliferation of the male loneliness epidemic, in quotes, it doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. If I said this before and I'll say it again, if we stopped gritting the roads in wintertime and then there was an increase in car crashes, we wouldn't call it the car crash epidemic. We would say, why are we stopping gritting the roads? To me, the male loneliness epidemic is a practice of not teaching men how to manage their emotions. It's not gritting the roads. It's teaching men how the loneliness epidemic is caused because we aren't teaching men how to convey how they feel, how to convey what's important to them, how to connect to their emotions and connect to their values. If we do that, aka we grit the roads, we won't have car crashes. We won't have men killing women. We won't have men being lonely. So please, the next time someone mentions the male loneliness epidemic, tell them that is a fairy tale that doesn't exist, and keeping that fairy tale alive will only continue to have women being hurt and murdered because men cannot manage their emotions, and yet women are called the emotional ones. Make it make sense. Make it make sense. I love Jordan Stevens. If you're not following him on all of the platforms, do. He's a real cleanser of the brain. He's a real, and encourage your sons to follow him. Encourage your sons to follow Jordan Stevens. If they're going to be influenced by a man, let it be him. Let it be him. Anyway. Okay, that's it for what's online today. Something else that I wanted to talk about on this episode was around something that's going on, not necessarily online, but on the telly. So if you're watching Love Island at the moment, which you don't need to have watched it to be a part of this discussion, there is a woman on Love Island called Angelista. She is a black woman from the UK, and she, God love her, is suppressing every emotion she has. She is unfortunately, I think, one of the women that will be very susceptible to autoimmune disease. Now, I'm not a doctor. I don't have any qualification. I am not diagnosing her. However, I am watching a woman in real time suppress every emotion that comes up for her because she has low self-esteem, in my opinion. And that is not shade. Angelista, Angel, I doubt you'll ever see this, but if you do, you're a queen, you're amazing, you're beautiful. Robin came out of the villa and said how funny and what a gorgeous personality you have. Unfortunately, we're not getting to see that, but that's not what I'm here for. I'm here to talk about how she suppresses emotion. If you're watching Love Island, you'll see her be disrespected by somebody or be devalued by, or attempted, because we can't lose our value based on someone else's behaviour. It might feel like that, but it's certainly not true. I'm watching her being treated badly in multiple situations, and she just, if you're not watching this podcast, I'm dabbing my eyes with my index fingers, and she just pushes down. She has every right to be angry in that situation, and expressing healthy anger would be really, really healthy for her in that moment. So when we talk about expressing healthy anger, the reason that I'm bringing this up and the reason that this is applicable to people who aren't watching Love Island also is even if you don't see what's going on with Angelista, you know as a woman there are times in your life where you have had to suppress healthy anger. Sometimes we have to suppress healthy anger because, well, let's talk about what healthy anger is. When something happens to us that brings up the emotion of anger, and you don't have control over that, you don't choose anger, you don't choose joy, you don't choose, peace, you don't choose disgust. When situations happen, those emotions naturally arise in us. They're all natural. They're all perfectly okay. It's what we do with them that matters. And in my work with women and in the research that I've done and the content that I consume, I have learned that suppressing healthy anger leads to autoimmune disease. 80% of autoimmune diseases are in women. So out of the 100% of the population of people who have autoimmune disease, 80% of those people are women. And that is because, according to Gabor Mate, that we have to suppress so much as women. Sometimes we have to suppress because we have to stay safe, because if we reacted, we would be dealt with violently. Okay, that's okay. Our job then is to get out of the violent or dangerous situation and express that anger safely and healthily as quickly as possible, because that emotion is now in our body. It is burning. There is stress hormones. There's all sorts going in our body. And if we don't process them and express them, they end up manifesting in other ways in our health. So I like to talk about this because I think that this is a travesty. I think it's a tragedy that so many women are suffering, because I know there are so many times in my life that I felt angry, but it was unsafe for me to express that. And now that I know how to express healthy anger, I do so often. Even if I don't feel angry, or even if I haven't felt anger that day, I do things that I do things that are in my toolbox that get anger up and out of the body, like singing, shouting, hitting things. Your mattress is safe and soft and bouncy. You could punch that till the cows come home and you won't injure yourself. Just even with the back of your fist, just slamming things. Singing really loud is one of my go-tos. Like, it feels like I'm getting to scream at that person, but I'm doing it in a controlled way that I enjoy. There's lots of different ways. Like, sometimes when I go to the forest, I'll find like a stick that is long and like strong. It doesn't break easily, and I'll whack the stick on the forest floor just until it exhausts me. I might be exhausted in 10 swings. I might be exhausted in 30 swings, but I get it out. I get that up and out. I don't want to hang on to that anger in my body. And we have a lot to be angry about. Sometimes I'm looking through my phone and another woman has been raped, another woman has been harmed, another woman has been assaulted or murdered at the hands of somebody that she knows most of the time. And that enrages me. That makes me extremely angry. I am sick of women being treated like this. I am sick of women being treated as if they are not valuable when we are the most valuable things in the world. So if you got nothing else from this episode, only to make sure that you schedule healthy anger sessions, release sessions in your home, in the forest, in nature. Do whatever you can. I don't think that we should wait till like we go to a boxing class at 7 o'clock. You have a house. You are living somewhere where there is a mattress. Surely punch the fucking life out of it and get that out of your body. You don't deserve to be sick. We don't deserve to be sick because of the behavior of others. Some of the most infuriating times when I felt anger was when my daughter was present, and me reacting or expressing my anger would have put her in a dangerous situation. So I had to swallow down how I was feeling and fawn and placate the person that I was in the company of. And these are people that are related to me as well, by the way. This isn't just, we're not just talking about boyfriends here. We're talking about parents. We're talking about siblings. We're talking about people that are around you that you expect to treat you well and then do these things to you and expect you to just take it. You know, we're done taking it, gals. We're done with the taking it. We're not taking it anymore. So yeah, I put up a video recently of me singing, and it was the first time that I had posted something like that. But I love singing, and I think that we have to see things online to be them, and I want women to see each other singing and releasing, and just like not continuing to swallow every brick that's thrown our way, because we don't need to and we don't deserve it. We deserve to express our healthy anger, and we deserve to have healthy bodies. So please, gals, let it up, let it out. Don't let it stay in there, because it'll make you sick, and I don't want that for you. You're too precious. Gals, thank you for listening to another episode of Healing Gals podcast this week. If you've watched on YouTube or on Spotify, thanks for watching. It's great to be here. I'm loving having a video podcast and having these kind of chats with you. I'm looking forward to the rest of the season. I've loads of great guests lined up. I've really good guests coming on. I've really gorgeous conversations coming up that are just so important for us as women and as humanity. Because, you know, if we mind women, if we protect women, if we encourage women, the rest of society will be looked after. Because who's looking after society if not the women? Know what I'm saying? Thanks for listening, gals. And remember, you're good enough exactly as you are. Bye, angels.